You got to love it here in the city. Our heart beats stronger.
Winnipeg is back in the big leagues and over the moon.
Welcome to the Landing Strip with Nick Lynham and Mikey Garcia, presented by From Financial.
Welcome back to the Landing Strip as the Winnipeg Jets drop game 2 of 2, their second loss on this Western swing, 2-1 to the San Jose Sharks in a game where I already see over in the chat, Gilbert Marion says the Jets didn't deserve to win this game. Arniel throwing combos out there that only made things worse. I don't see any value with Shen. Miller is significantly better. Jets have trouble with speed, and we're going to be diving into all those topics today. BS1990 over on YouTube says, holy shit, do I have some thoughts after this one. Had a few whiskeys since the start of the third, and I'm fired the hell up. It wasn't the Winnipeg Jets' best game, let's put it that way. Mikey, how are you doing this evening after that one?
At least we had a more exciting game than the one against Los Angeles. So that at least that part was a little bit better. But man, a game where you sit there and you're watching and you're going, the Jets need to win this game. The Jets need to. They can collect some points on this road trip. This is the time to do it. And they just absolutely fell apart the longer that game went on. So we're gonna get into all of the reasons why, but at least it wasn't a snooze fest.
Yeah. Not the greatest result in watching a young, talented Sharks team really hammer the Jets with speed. Watch a lot of sloppy plays from the Jets that helped benefit a quick team in transition like that. And they were dangerous, especially from the second period on. I actually thought the first period was a quality period that the Jets were probably the better team and could have left that with a bit bigger of a lead, if not some big Ned saves. But that second period, we've already heard Arniel talk about that second period being an issue for them, comes to kick them in the ass again. As that period went on, it became all San Jose Sharks with the high danger chances. This was a game that could have easily been a lot worse than 2-1 against the Winnipeg Jets. This was one of those games Connor Hellebuyck tried to will them to a win. But before we start diving into each individual topic, what is your big takeaway leaving the San Jose Sharks versus Winnipeg Jets game in game 14 here for the Winnipeg Jets?
You know, when we first started talking about the issues in the second period, long change, is it a road thing where they don't have last change? At first, I was like, it's just going to be a couple games of this. I don't think this is going to be an ongoing topic. And yet here we are again in that second period, having the long change, being on the road, not having that final change. It was super evident again. We talked a lot about how the Jets have handled the loss of some of their key players early on, how they were able to bank points. But I think what we've seen in these last couple games is maybe a bit of a culmination of, guys playing a lot in positions that are maybe a bit above their head. They're starting to kind of show why the guys who are out are ahead of them in the lineup, right? So at least it was, there was more jump in them tonight, but just the boneheaded decisions and some of the brain dead moments was really hard to stomach.
Yeah, my big takeaway, and I'm going to piggyback off of BS 1990 to kind of introduce my point. My biggest takeaway today comes from, but let's start with BS 1990's comment before jumping over to Twitch for Choice's big takeaways on this game as usual. BS 1990 said, this Jets team has been carried by goaltending and high shooting percentage all year. All year. Without Helly on the top line running hot, this team has been playing at a borderline lottery level. And my biggest takeaway tonight, leaving this game, based on what we saw Scott Arniel do with the entire lineup today, is that Scott Arniel has finally reached his boiling point. And I know we've kind of danced around it at times where we've known that they haven't been playing their best hockey, but they've been sneaking wins in. We've been talking about how it's going to be important for them to reestablish their game when they get healthy. I think today my biggest takeaway is just how frustrated the coaching staff is despite the 9-5 start with the level of play we've seen, because a lot of what BS 1990 says there, and he tops it off here with bottom 5 in all shots for Corsi percentage for and expected goals for this year. And even though it's early in the year for a lot of the noise that goes into those metrics, but if you watch this team, you know they get hammered in constantly. I think today was the boiling point for Scott Arniel with that reality from what we've seen. He's been kind of dancing around it in media, kind of saying how they haven't gotten to the Winnipeg Jets brand of hockey. He hasn't seen that from them, but he's talked about not wanting to hammer a team at the record 9-3. It's hard to get those points through when you're winning. I think we just saw the frustration finally boil over with this game against San Jose, because there's a lot of truth to what BS 1990 is saying over on YouTube. What do you think of that?
100% agree. The frustrations are starting to boil over a little bit from the coaching staff, and I think that's, like you said, that's more what the line blender coming out today was about. It was just a way to say, hey, look, none of you are executing. Nobody is making the right type of plays, so we're just going to blow it up and kind of play out the rest of the game. And for that frustration to build up, it kind of makes sense. We've given the Jets a lot of praise when it comes to banking those points, which is good because you need them, but the underlying play just hasn't really been there. Over on Twitter, friend of the show, Liz, she had a tweet out that said, genuine question for everybody. How many games have the Jets quite handily outplayed their opponent this season? And out of these first 14 games, what would you put that at? 1 to 3, somewhere in that range? That's where I voted.
That's where I voted.
Right? Yeah, so it just, when you kind of take a step back and look at it that way, you go, yeah, for a President's Choice winning team, a team that had Stanley Cup aspirations, you would want a lot more maybe out of those, first 14 games. Now, again, injuries and all of that, not to say, but it just, I can understand where that frustration is starting to build up in the coaching staff.
Rob Somerville's takeaway. I've gotten a few texts about this, especially going into that third. So I think this has been a popular stance in the Jets community. Rob Somerville over on YouTube says, Jets figured they'd have an easy time with the so-called inferior San Jose club. The Sharks are a vastly improved team from previous seasons, and that team is a team that's coming up. To further kind of amplify what we're talking about here, BS 1990 points out last year they were legitimately great, top 5 in a ton of metrics. I want to say by the end of the year, in all 6 facets of the game that are tracked, they were an above average team or better last year. And they still might get there. But they haven't shown that early. And I think they've had the built-in excuse of the injuries, and I've been a bit more patient with them this year than in years past. But BS 1990, again, makes a great point on this topic, saying, I'm glad that Arniel blew a gasket tonight because it shows his fingers on the pulse of this team. And I would definitely agree with that. Points out how good Sandberg's going to have to be for this team to really take a step. I think everyone that's listening to the show knows that I think Sandberg's a top 3 to 5 most valuable Winnipeg Jet just based on how this roster is configured and the level of play he got to last year. So that's going to be a big guy getting back in the lineup when you're dressing 3 guys that are arguably number 6, 7 defensemen in this league. One might not even be able to play in this league still. So there's still some positives to come. But it has really been that bad of a start if you look at the flow of play and what this team's done night in and night out. What did you take of Arniel's line blender? Would you think of where they went with it? And what's your takeaway with that? We'll start there, and then we'll dive into some of the other stuff in this one.
Last year we begged and pleaded for Arniel for stretches during the season to break out the line blender. We were absolutely crawling for it just because we wanted to see what some of the other combinations could possibly look like, and they were dead set on no. This is going to be the grouping that we're going forward with, and occasionally during a game they might change something up here or there, but that was generally more so to deal with specific ice time and those type of things. Tonight's line blender was not that. This was nobody is executing, nobody is sticking to the game plan that we've practiced and discussed and came in with. There's too many mistakes. So this was, I think more so just to give that breath into the team of like, hey, look, get your heads out of your ass, wake up. This is a game that you're still in the middle of. You can't be either looking ahead or half asleep. In terms of where he went with the lines, I didn't read a whole lot into it. I think he was just kind of trying to blend the ice times going forward. So I don't think we're going to be seeing any of these pairings or combinations going forward. I think it's going to go right back to kind of what they envision, what they want this team to look like for the next game. So yeah, for the actual individual lines themselves, it was fine. Seeing Lowry and Connor together is always a positive. That's something I know you've been a big proponent on for the last couple years. But outside of that, I didn't pay too much attention to where he went specifically with it, just because I know that it's going to be heading back, and this was more so just to kind of wake everybody up.
Yeah, this was definitely a message sending blender to see everything shaken up except the third pair. And I want to talk about the third pair a little bit as we get going here. But we saw Pionk and Morrissey get together, and we know when they're chasing offense, that's a pair that they like to go to. And given where that game had trended, I see the logic going there. Then we saw DeMello and Stanley, who honestly, I thought Stanley was pretty steady in this one. Thought he'd pick some good spots to jump. I wasn't as nerve-wracking with him defensively as I normally am. Up front, they went to Nino, Scheifele, Iafallo, Lowry, Connor, and Nemestikov, Kepke, Taves, and Velarde, and Pearson, Ford, and Chibrikov. And I think there's a few things at play here. I think the Chibrikov demotion and benching is quite obvious at this point. Of the three rookies that have gotten a chance, I think he's shown the least and been the biggest negative, especially with all these penalties he takes. And
Yeah,
it's
the
not like
penalties
he's really
stand out.
doing much the other way. Almost gave up a chance to Ty Dellandrea there too, that Helly bailed him out of. So that was an obvious one, was getting him to the fourth line. And then with the top nine, what my theory was on what he was trying to do, because I think you're right, it was mostly a message send. But what I think he was looking at was with how badly they were getting beat on pace. He was trying to get some pace on each line, like a guy like Kepke adding some pace to the Velarde Taves group. Connor obviously being the pace guy with Lowry and Nemestikov, and then 55 really controlling the play with Iafallo and 62 is why I think he went that direction.
Yep.
Not necessarily the type of lines you'd expect to see, but when you're sending a message to your team this early on, I think that's kind of what resulted in those lines that we saw and the fact he stuck with them. But I do think that this was a big message sending night for Scotty Arniel.
Yeah, especially with the Chibrikov thing, they've done their best, I think, to try to get both Chibi and Lambert into a few games here, see if they can make something work, but it hasn't clicked for either guy. And yeah, unfortunately, Chibrikov's most memorable moments so far in this early part of the season has been the constant parade to the penalty box. I believe it was Harrison over on Twitch who said, the Jets apparently have to take 4 penalties every single game now. It's a minimum. So they're gonna have to clean some of those things up, and totally agree with the Chibi benching and the demotion is he's probably not long to stay in the lineup, especially if there's a Cole Perfetti anywhere near.
I see. A big-time regular of ours is back. Big Papa back over on Twitch. Says long
Big
time no
Papa.
chat. Nice to see the boys. Great to see you joining us. Been busy with the farm and life. This was my second game of the year. I don't know what the fuck I seen, but that was not a playoff team if they didn't have 37 in net.
Correct.
And that was a rough one for your second one of the year. I hope everything on the farm and the kid and everything is going well for you, big guy. Nice to see you in the chat. I wanted to go to Frosty's point here to kind of redirect this question or this show. Obviously, we touched on the big blender and what it looks like. We also got a comment from Choices TK over on Twitch saying Arniel on CJB was asked by Paul Emmons what he saw tonight, and his quote was a terrible game for the Winnipeg Jets, and I don't think that's anything any of us is going to deny on this night.
Yep.
But I want to go to Frosty Winnipeg here. Who says there must be a way to finish on top of the league during the regular season and still draft a player like Celebrini. I wish I could draw a Wiccan pentagram that actually works. Obviously, he's getting a lot of hype. The two young kids that everyone loves to debate in Celebrini and Bedard now sit 1-2 in the NHL standings. Let's talk about Celebrini today. What'd you see from him? And do you think he's going to be an Olympian? Because in my opinion, that was the best player on the ice for both teams tonight outside of Connor Hellebuck.
Absolutely. That was the best skater by far. It's incredible to see what he's doing at 19 years old, leading the league in points. God, is he? He's so much fun to watch. And unfortunately, the Jets gave him way too many opportunities to come in and showcase those skills one-on-one against Connor Hellebuck. It's frustrating to watch a guy that's so good, so young, while we're over here going, please, Chibrikov, stay out of the box. Just stay out of the box, man. Come on. So that was a little bit hard to swallow. And yeah, if they don't put a Team Canada jersey on that kid for the Olympics, I don't know what the hell's going on, because you can't watch him play and come away with it going, nah, I don't think he's ready.
Yeah, he right from the opening shift, he was dangerous. Has that cut. He's so smooth on his edges.
So smooth.
And he cuts to the middle, creates that look early on. And it just seemed like one of those nights where the puck was absolutely glued to him. On the tying goal for him, he gets out there late on Josh Morrissey and then still bides ice until he sees that there's a puck that Toffoli's likely going to get and goes for the stretch. And what I think I was most impressed about on that Celebrini goal, not only is he deking out one of the best goalies in the world, but he's doing it with back pressure from Josh Morrissey, one of the best defensive skaters in the world. And we've seen Josh Morrissey is so effective at using his speed, but also his body positioning to cut off guys like that, to get the upper hand. And Celebrini beat him to that punch and just made a great play for a kid that age. Very impressed with what I saw from Macklin Celebrini today. And if you're asking me, he's on my my 2026 Olympic roster, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know how you leave him off that squad, especially if he keeps playing at this pace.
Yeah, especially if he keeps playing at this pace. Blake Geist over on YouTube says, I was at the Flames game tonight, and the last goal by Bedard was gross. Also, first time in the Saddle Dome that place can't be torn down quick enough. Bit of a dive. I've watched one game from there, and that was years ago, and it was already a bit of a dive.
Yeah.
But yeah, the young stars definitely put on a night with Connor Bedard putting up 4 to further put a dagger into the Calgary Flames start to the season.
Yeah. Absolutely unreal what's happening again with Bedard, another extremely young guy who's just racking up the points. And the Saddle Dome is a dump. We can call a spade a spade. It's a dump. There's a reason that it floods every spring and they just pump the water back out.
BS 1990 has paid attention to Hockey Canada, who says Hockey Canada will of course not take him and pick Tom Wilson instead.
Of course.
Getting some funny comps. Where was it here? I saw over on YouTube. I got to mention this play. Let's talk actually. What do you think of the Cole Koepke empty net from Gabe Vilardi?
Oh my God. At least it wasn't the playoffs this time. Fuck. That was unreal. The poor guy, he can't buy a goal. Gets himself into good positions. He's got, he's able to get onto the end of some really good pucks from other players. He just can't buy a goal to save his life. The still is even worse. I know if some people screen grabbed the moment right before he tries to cut across, and it's just wide open net. All you see is Nedljovic's arm.
Goes for the deke.
Goes for the deke. Hey, give him respect. He really wanted to make it something.
Rain over on YouTube said, didn't realize we had Cole Mason Appleton Koepke on the team.
Don't put that on him yet. Come poor kid.
When I saw Connor post that still, I'm like, uh-oh, it's the new Appleton meme. And honestly, a great play from Gabe Vilardi to toe drag into the middle there and feed Cole Koepke. And like you said, Cole Koepke continues to put himself in the right spots to get looks. He just might have a little James Wright in him, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's a reason why some guys are, fourth line players and other guys can play in that middle six. It just, he doesn't have the finish good positions. He's smart. He's getting in the right spots. Just, can't buy it. And look, the difference between the greats and the goods is consistency. Mason Appleton was consistently bad at scoring goals in wide open positions like that. I'm hoping that Koepke will only be good at that and not reach the Mason Appleton level of greatness at absolutely missing every open net.
A couple of comments here, and we'll kind of move off that topic. Caitlin said at least Appleton got a shot off. There was no shot on goal on that Vilardi-Koepke play. God. And Ticona Pauly says, did Koepke get Appleton's gloves or something? Frosty Winnipeg said Koepke handled the puck on the empty net like my pal Goose hit the canopy. Or like his pal Goose hit the canopy.
That's good.
But that is to say, or I see Choices too said Koepke channeling his inner Appleton. That is to say, this was a very frustrating game.
Yep.
But to Nedeljkovic's credit, he came up big in some spots where the Jets did create some real good opportunities for themselves too. I don't want to take that away from Winnipeg either, especially that first period. And then towards the end, when they had the net pulled, they almost brought this to overtime. But this was a game where the best chances and the flow of play was genuinely um, through San Jose's speed, the Jets turning pucks over and just being gone like that. The starkness of these two games coming off that LA game where the neutral zone was a hassle. It was clogged up. It was tough to get any pace in that game. And then you come into a game like this where it felt like every time, especially more so with San Jose, every time they had the puck and were transitioning, it was just a wide open hockey game. And that definitely played into the younger team's hands on this night.
Yep, 100% agreed.
Rain points out Ned made some big saves on Vladdy and Velarde. And let's go to Vlad. Another milestone for the Winnipeg Jets today with Vlad Nemestikov getting to game 800. And this was a night where it looked like they were looking to get him one. 3 or 4 really good looks for Vlad Nemestikov. The best one probably being on that penalty kill where Pionk jumps in, gets it over to Vlad. Or Connor gets it over to Vlad. One of the two.
Does.
It was the three of them. Yeah, it was the three of them on an odd man rush. And Vlad's sitting there all alone for a one-timer. Nedeljkovic gets over. Is this how often do we see both penalty kills get a breakaway in this game? Adam Lowry, who low-key is one of those players that just always seems to get breakaways, especially shorthanded. Couldn't bury. And I saw someone on YouTube, I can't remember who it was, mentioned that I think it was T. Will. Look at T. Will's making some good points lately. How they brought in Jonathan Taves, one of the best shootout guys ever. It's time for him to teach Lowry some new moves.
That's right.
And then Goudreau for them takes advantage of, I believe it was Velarde up top or Nino?
Nino up top.
Was it Nino up top? Blake Goudreau goes the other way and gets a good look, but Hallebuck makes one of his many, many grade A chance saves on this night. What'd you think of the Jets' power play tonight?
Comes up short again. That's 0 for 10 over the last 3 games. You know, again, something they relied on heavily, leaned on heavily to get those points in the beginning of the season has dried up completely. It was always going to come back down a bit. It was always going to have to kind of regress, but to have it all kind of happen at once, especially in these close games, these 1-goal games, it's frustrating. It's super tough to swallow because we know how good they can be on the power play. We know that can be a cheat code for them, and they're just at the moment a little bit gun shy, a little bit snake bit on it. Penalty kill was good again today. Another 4 kills. They shouldn't be having to take that many opportunities at it.
Yeah,
it's great that the percentage is so high, but that's too many chances. You're playing with fire, and it's going to come back and burn them real bad at some point. So they've got to stop taking the penalties to give that penalty kill a chance to breathe, and the power play's got to come back around.
Yeah, I like the look of the first power play that they had. Nino gets robbed backdoor on the crease. Who I thought Nino quietly had a pretty solid game despite the mess all around. And then the top unit had a couple chances themselves. They just didn't bury. And that's one of those things, right? Shooting percentage regression is a bit of a bitch at times when it's going well. Obviously, it's going well. And then you're kicking yourself when those pucks aren't going in. But I didn't mind the look of the power play. It's just, of course, you need them to bury. And as we've seen with this team, it's going to be very tough for them to score goals when that top line isn't doing a lot of it. They've really benefited from those guys having such a heater. I know Vlad came into tonight with 4 goals in 6 games, but a lot of the quality, especially at 5-on-5, the Jets are one of the worst teams at generating quality looks by expected goals for in the NHL this year. And a lot of that quality is coming from the top line. They're going to get Cole Perfetti back, who skated today in a regular jersey. Given what you saw, they pulled Lambert out, which I was a little surprised about coming off his 2 best games in the NHL this year. And they put Chibi with the Lowry Nino group. Are you buying at all after today and seeing how the lineup was that maybe Perfetti does start in that Chibrikov spot on the Lowry line?
I still would be surprised. I still think he's going to slide up with Taves, and I think Iafallo is going to end up riding shotgun with Lowry. They
I
know
can
they
see
have
that
a
one.
connection in Iafallo and Lowry off of last season. It worked out well the few stretches where they've played together. So I'm pretty sure that's still where they're going to go with it. Will it stay that way? Hard to say, right? Depends if Cole Perfetti can find the chemistry with JT. If there isn't chemistry there, I can see them jumping right back to Iafallo on that line because we have seen a little bit of some chemistry and results starting to come through with JT Nemestikov and Iafallo. But I do think Perfetti is going to slide into that spot right away, and they're going to be hoping that the two of them, Perfetti and Taves, can really form a bond here and give the Jets something stable in that middle six.
And I think that's gonna. I was talking to someone today, just kind of feeling out the vibes of where different people are with the Jets start with the roster, and I do think the middle six is going to be a constant bit of shuffling until they can figure something out. It's quite safe to say we all believe that they're going to need someone that could with some finish and that could skate. I think those are the two priorities in a player come the deadline to fit into this thing. But I do wonder about it because Nemestikov's been a real nice fit on the wing with Jonathan Taves. It's been the best duo. Yeah, you could see one of them play their off wing when Perfetti comes back. I could see that.
Yeah. And for the Lambert thing, I'm assuming this was probably a planned game to get Chibrikov in to get him some games, keep him fresh. Before the season started, I kind of figured this was the route they were going to be going with Lambert and Chibi, both starting with the team with the injuries and everything. That they'll get in for a few games each here and there. Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed to see Lambert not get a chance to keep building on what was, like you said, his best two games by far. But I'm guessing this was maybe a kind of a scheduled game that they were planning to get Chibi in, and I don't think he did himself any favors.
Definitely not. Joyce's TK points out could have used that Lambert speed tonight. One of the few guys who could keep up with that pace.
Very true.
And it felt like an odd one for me to go Lambert or Chibrikov for Lambert and Miller for Shen, given the pace of the opponent.
That's the one we need to talk about. What are we doing? What are we doing? We know that this is a team that wants to attack you with speed. We know this is a team that's going to be coming flying through the neutral zone. And your response to that, your idea is we're going to put in the slowest, most molasses-footed defenseman that we have and take out the one guy who's been able to transition the puck who's not Josh Morrissey, the one guy on the back end who has any semblance of offense normally, Logan Stanley notwithstanding. He's been better, but it made no sense to me to see Luke Shen draw into this game when Colin Miller is perfectly healthy. It's baffling. I don't understand the willingness to keep going back to Luke Shen when you've got an opponent that is specifically his kryptonite. It's if you were playing some big hulking team with bruising bodies and you really wanted to try to put down whatever. I don't agree, but I can at least understand that. If you've got the Sharks skating at you with all that speed and you're like, yeah, Luke Shen will go out there and stop that. That one blew me away. What do you think?
As Turd says here before I get into my thoughts, Turd says, correction, Mikey, slowest D-man in the NHL, not just the Jets.
Right, very well, maybe.
Yeah, I'm kind of where T. Konopali is, saying, yeah, I don't ever agree with taking players out when they're rolling, reward them. And I think what Lambert's shown the last two games, compared to what Chibi's shown all year, it was a good spot to give Lambert that game in a game that is going to, if the Sharks have their way, and they did have their way, it was going to be a bit more open style of game. The Miller Shen thing, like the realistic reality is, unless Luke Shen has a long-term injury or gets caught up in a gambling scandal, he's going to be in this lineup for reasons that go past what's happening on the ice, unfortunately. So if there's a FanDuel account out there, make sure to report it.
Does he want to play poker with Chauncey Billups? I bet there's a spot at the table.
But the one thing that's going to be ingrained in my head, because I didn't think his partner was any better, if not worse today, there was one play that's just ingrained in my head where Ryan Reeves, of all players, gets a 1-on-2 on Fleury and Shen, and toe drags and gets a look at the net. Right? We're talking about Ryan Reeves pulling that off. Didn't understand that one.
Nope. I don't understand. Yeah, it makes no sense.
Let's go to a bit of a vibe check before we move into the From Financial Face-Off, because I see a couple people talking about it over on YouTube. BS 1990 said they need Perfetti and Sandberg back ASAP to calm the storm a bit here because the schedule is about to get brutal in 2 weeks and the wheels could very possibly fall off. Caitlin says still not panicking, 4 games above 500, only November, but Perfetti needs to move the needle at least a little on offense or I'm going to start to get worried, in which BS 1990 says Perfetti isn't fixing this offense. He's good, but he isn't nearly enough. As far as where we're at in the season, 9-5, let's take a step here. Where are you at with the Winnipeg Jets? Where are you at?
So
to add to it, let's keep adding to it.
Yeah.
Rain points out, it's all on the same topic. Rain points out, I'm slowly worried that my initial thoughts on this team in the offseason are becoming true. The first few games were just a hot stretch. Where are you, I guess, at right now? They're 9-5.
Yep.
Coming off their first, I think, 2-game losses in a row. It's November. With how I just teed you up, how are you feeling, Mikey?
Ooh, we gave the Jets a lot of we gave them the benefit of the doubt to start the year. Everything they did last year. Excuse me 1 second.
Yep.
Everything they did last year, the way that they won, they brought back essentially the same grouping. We didn't lose any of outside of Nik, there's nobody really big, right? So they were able to bring back most of that same kind of team. So we were willing to give them the time and the patience to start off the season. They did come out of the gate real hot. It was a hot stretch against some lighter opponents, but they were doing what they should have done in those games. They were slapping around some of the weaker teams. They were banking points. They even won a few games where you went, man, I don't know if they deserved to win that one, but they got the 2 points and, you make out like a bandit. I think the Jets are kind of right where we kind of had them before the season started. I had them in, finishing at the end of the year, 3rd in the Central. I think you had them first wild card, right? So around the same spots essentially. And a few games ago we're like, oh look, they're at the top of the league and they're at the top of the standings. That's great. That's awesome. I think we all knew that was a bit of a mirage, right? That was propped up, like we've talked about, on some real high shooting percentage, on a power play that was just clicking like crazy, and some weak opponents. So do I think it's as bad as the sky is falling, they're going to fall out, crash out? No. Is this a President's Trophy? I think I said President's Choice earlier, by the way. So is this a President's Trophy squad? At the moment, no. I don't think, though. I think they're somewhere right in the middle, which is kind of where we pegged them before the season started. I think we're looking at a mediocre to good team in the Central Division that's going to be in the mix for it, but at the moment this isn't the President's Trophy pace team that we were watching last year.
Yeah, I'm not in panic mode myself. I had the standard that I was expecting this team to be about 500 without Sandberg, and BS 1990 jumps to where I'm going here, says I just have to keep reminding myself about the Jets record and level play with Sandberg and without Sandberg last year. Not a playoff team without him. They were a 500 hockey team, top 5 team with him. I hope it's the same now. And based on how this team is built, Lowry, Perfetti, and Sandberg are valuable players to this, but even more valuable given some of the roster deficiencies. Like we've talked about, it's a high floor team that has a lower ceiling than a lot of the teams that they finish around. So I'm not in panic mode yet. 9-5. This trip, we talked about it last show or the show before. I was hoping to beat 500, and that's looking a little bit more like an uphill battle now with the Ducks on deck, though they have Vegas on Saturday, so a bit of a back-to-back situation for them. Frustrating because watching the brand of hockey isn't what's going to be needed to take another step with this group, though I think that's something we all are aware of, and the coaching staff is clearly aware of. We're seeing some of the things we expected with when the goals dry up. There's going to be some rough stretches with this group, and I think that should have been an expectation coming in with losing Nik and looking at what the lineup looks like after the top line, which is, if you look historically, has been a big reason why I've been pro trying to see if Connor and Scheifele could work apart, because this team does need scoring throughout its lineup. But so far, I'm not ready to get worked up yet. I want to see 10, 15, 20 games with this healthy group before I start diving and getting myself too wired up about the underlying so far.
Yep.
But that is to say this team hasn't been good enough for the level they want to get to, and we can't ignore that either. Let's just see where this goes when especially Dylan Sandberg gets back, because he is such a big piece to what the Jets do well, especially defensively. He carries such a big role in the quality of minutes that he handles. So I'm not jumping off a ledge just yet.
No, and if Perfetti's going to come back and not only match the pace that he was playing at last year, which we just has to be the bare minimum, and if he is able to then take another offensive step forward, get to a 30-ish goal pace, that will go a long way in giving the Jets a little bit of breathing room in the middle of the lineup to weather nights like this where the top line isn't getting you on the board, and you just need that one goal to extend this game.
Yes, and I think Julian makes a fair point too, that I don't want to lose sight of this either, and it's why we're talking about some of the deadline ads we are, and Caitlin brought up a couple of them we'll get into in the later half of this show. Julian does say they have no consistent scoring outside the top line, and the only offensive threat, even with a healthy Sandberg, is Morrissey. That is a problem.
Yep.
Tico Napoli, we'll open the phone lines after the From Financial Face-Off. You could get off hold. We'll get that open soon here. We'll get you on the line. And then Turd Ferguson says, Sandberg allows Pionk to be more aggressive and limits time in our zone better than anyone we have on our D-Corps. And we do know that. And also, Sandberg helps push the play up the other way with his puck movement. That's been a skill that's gotten better over his development time himself.
Yep.
But we do know that they're going to be shopping for scorers, or they're going to have to be shopping for scorers.
Yeah.
Speaking of Pionk, let's go there. And then let's get into the From Financial Face-Off. What'd you think of Neil's night?
Does he get an assist on that last goal? Does that work that way? Because that'll be the third time this season where he's handed the puck over for a fucking goal like that, and I still don't get points. I don't know what we're doing with this. This is ridiculous, Neil. You know what? We talked about it last year. Contract year, Neil. Contract year, Neil. I was told no. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. Look, homie gets paid and just doesn't show up anymore. His name is nowhere on the goddamn sheets. Every fucking game. This is ridiculous at this point. I don't know what we're doing.
It's one of those things, and this is one that people want to get on me for my misses. This is one that I think I've had nailed for some time when it comes to Neil Pionk. It's important to remember, this is a 7 million times 7 defenseman. That's a long-term deal that needs Dylan Sandberg to really succeed in this league. And tonight was one of those getting Pionk nights that just infuriates me to watch.
Yep.
Anytime that there was pressure, how many times he had an open space to skate the puck, he throws it away, and then on that final goal throws it to nobody. And the Sharks guys jump all over it.
Yeah, that was hard. That one was hard to watch at the end there. Pionk needs Sandberg. We see how completely different his game gets to be. He's so much calmer. He's so much more able to focus on the things that he does well. So, yeah, Sandberg, not only just for the overall makeup of the team, but for Pionk's game specifically, it makes such a difference to have him back there.
Yeah, it's safe to say he is the big driver of Mr. U.S. Olympic camp somehow. Anyways, it looks like people want to talk some trades, and there's some good points over there. We'll get to that. But let's move in to the From Financial Face-Off. After we get through the From Financial Face-Off, we'll open the phone lines because I know the mayor of Transcona is looking to get in on a call. Let us know. Let's get into the From Financial Face-Off, Mikey.
Let's hit it. Right on.
All right. So if you've been here before, which many of you I see in the chat have, let us know the From Financial difference in this game. What was the biggest part of this game that led to this result? What was potentially missing? What went well in your mind that you liked? What was the big aspect of this game that stood out between the Sharks and the Jets? And Mikey, I'll start with you.
So, again, lots of ways we can hit this one tonight. But for me, again, the thing that stood out just so obvious is the lack of speed. The Jets are a team that want to play with speed. They talk about it. They talk about a team speed game. Arneal has been really clear about that all of last year. and a couple times this year as well. And it's lacking. They're missing that ability to really get the puck going out of their own end, and cleanly up the ice. They're missing a big piece both on defense and up front to really get the puck going in that direction. And tonight it was on display, especially with the addition of Luke Shen back on there. It was so obvious and so painful. And for a team that talks about it, that wants to do it, they tend to make some interesting lineup decisions that are counteractive to that. And I haven't been able to really square that away. So, on a night that the other team made it so much more obvious with how good they used their speed, it really showed me that, again, the Jets are missing it.
Yeah, it's safe to say one detail stood out for a lot of people watching that game, and you're all over it. Caitlin said the From Financial faceoff was, we let the Sharks dictate the pace of play. We got drawn into a north-south hockey game and got smoked. Yep. Turd Ferguson said the From Financial faceoff is speed. Tico Napoli says the From Financial faceoff was the Sharks' speed and tenacity. And yeah, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. The pace in this game was just so starkly different. And BS 1990 had made an earlier point bouncing off this idea with who the Jets have struggled with this year. And it was Utah, the Sharks, Seattle, and Dallas. The teams that could play up to that pace really have given the Jets fits. Let's not fool around with it. It's all about the speed. And BS 1990 gets the From Financial faceoff in. If you skate, you beat the Jets. Mikey, Ticona is asking for it. Let's get to the phone line so we could talk to the mayor of Transcona and see what his thoughts are leaving the Sharks versus the Jets.
Right on. I'll bring in the mayor. Mr. Mayor, you're on the landing strip.
I'm on the landing strip.
Yes,
how
sir.
about that?
You're live.
Okay.
What would you like to talk about?
Well, we're talking the speed, and that mixes in with what I was going to say. Physicality. You got this Celebrini, the new hotshot on the block. He's running all over you, making plays, scoring, setting up guys. Nobody gets in the guy's grill. Nobody gets in his face after a whistle. Nobody gives him a hack behind the legs. Nobody hits him clean. Nobody does nothing. And with none of the other Sharks either. So is Reeves that intimidating? Like I get it, Shen's already learned that lesson. What, we're going to rely on Lowry, the captain, back 2 games. He's got to be the guy to go out there and tap Reeves or get in. Like, where's the answer to the physicality? Where's the answer when you're getting embarrassed on a night like tonight? Or, well, maybe not embarrassed, but again, the kid's running all over. They gave him a free ticket to do it all night.
Hey, at Ticona, I'm going to read you out a tweet that I saw as a takeaway from this game. Can't pronounce the name, but I want to get your take because it's really talking about what you're talking about here. So one of the takeaways I saw over on social media today was, secondly, this team is great, but there's absolutely no agitation. The Jets are tough and built big, but they aren't built to get under anybody's skin. It's a fatal flaw missing that core element. Is that what you're thinking here, Ticona?
Well, I'm the number one advocate for Tom Wilson 3 years ago. I'm the number one Tyrell Bauer fan, and he's actually a clean player, not even really an agitator. And I know he's not an NHLer. But, yeah, I mean, certainly, I get it. Ford, he can kind of be that guy. I mean, even Esimont, who Ford reminds me of, has been doing more of that. But, like, I guess they're not that, like, back in the day, there was a lot of them. Now, maybe not so much. But, yeah, this team needs that drastically, especially on nights like tonight.
Yeah, something to kind of get a spark going, right? Nothing was going for them, and sometimes you turn it into that game and try and frustrate the highly skilled talent.
You can't let a guy who's a whatever rookie or second year, I guess he's second year now. You can't let a guy take over the game like that. You gotta get in his face a little bit. You gotta give nobody. I didn't see anyone do anything with him. I think they got the gate for him and picked up the puck. Nobody played mean with the guy. They were all helping him out. They're being nice to him. That's not how I play hockey.
It's not the hockey you grew up in. It's not the hockey I even was playing a decade and a bit ago. But BS 1990 does say that's the way the league is now, unfortunately, and it's definitely trended that way. Anything else going through your mind tonight, Ticona?
Well, they wanted to do that. The league did that because they wanted to promote offense. And I don't think it's helped that much, to be honest with you. But the only thing I can also maybe attribute to them being kind of like dead in the water tonight, is this 9-hour stuck on a tarmac stuff they were talking about. Like, if that's true, that is kind of hokey pokey, eh?
That is a little tough.
What's that?
That is a little tough, yep.
Yeah, did they actually spend 9 hours on the tarmac?
That I don't know. I didn't have boots on the ground.
That's the reporting.
For the I didn't have boots on the ground for the tarmac.
On TV or whatever. I think I heard them say, yeah. Well, okay, I'll let you get to other people, but I mean, yeah, if it was 9 hours, I could see how they maybe were disinterested in the game after they realized that the Sharks weren't going to go away. You know what I mean? But other than that, I mean, games like tonight with guys like that, you gotta make them know you're out there. If you can't hit them clean, hit them dirty, I guess.
Yeah,
I'll end it on that.
Ticona, it's always great to hear from you. Great to have you back chatting. And I hope you have a great rest of your night, buddy.
You too. Thanks for having me. Okay, later.
Later. Let's get into, because I wanted to set up a couple points here. Where is it now in the YouTube chat? Someone, I think it was Caitlin, had brought up the names Kyrou and Tippett. So I wanted to use this as a bit of a segue where this new cap world, I think, and how teams are adjusting is kind of exposing the well-run teams and the not-so-well-run teams. Though I'll take great solace in watching the St. Louis Blues collapse in real time.
Always
the reason the reason Jordan Kyrou comes up is he wore a healthy scratch this week, and it always seems to be him that kind of wears it. So there's a lot of wondering whether he's looking and the team's looking to potentially move him. Now, he's got a full no-trade clause, Ontario boy. Anytime there's a full no-trade, even with the Jets being more attractive this year, I don't like to get my hopes up. But there's some teams that are in some interesting spots. We got Calgary in dead last, who their owner seems to love his core for some reason and wants to keep a 35-year-old 2C in Nazem Kadri, which I don't understand very much. But what I find interesting is, and we've spent some time talking about it, we've talked about it around the Sandberg deal, we've talked about it in the rising cap world, that a lot of the deals that were signed under the hard cap before this big raise are kind of the deals you want to try and acquire, especially if a team is frustrated with the player, and teams like Philly with Owen Tippett, his name comes up, and there was a report they're not too thrilled with Konechny right now, and they're in the second year of a long-term deal. Those are the types of deals that are going to age really well, that you're not going to win those deals. You're seeing the same now with some of the talk at a St. Louis Kyrou available. There's been some talk around Justin Falk and Braden Shen. What do you make of the trade market? And given some of these names, in a hypothetical world where they all waive, who would your target be? And is there a player that doesn't have trade protection that stands out to you early, dealing with trying to find some offense? Because I see over on YouTube, Rain said, Kyrou, Tippett, Barzell, please, someone. Caitlin had mentioned Kyrou and Tippett. I like this point from BS 1990 saying the Jets broke the Blues. The Manitoba Miracle might have destroyed what they hoped to have had. Let's see who in that list. Is there anybody that stands out on any of those kind of teams? And is there someone that stands out to you as a potential target up front? And Ethan M., feel free to call in, and we'll take your call at 204-800-0409.
Hell yeah. Get on the line. The one that really has stood out to me, especially with the way things have gone this year, is Owen Tippett. I think that is the exact type of player that the Jets need. Not only is the contract situation in the right place to get the best out of him during your window here, he brings the shooting talent that they need. I just think everything about his game translates to what the Winnipeg Jets are missing. I think that is, pie in the sky, perfect scenario. I think that's exactly what the Jets, when you're looking at, because you have to balance out not only the contract side of it, but then the fit. I think he hits both really nicely for the Jets. The issues with the guys like Kyrou, like you said, are the full no moves. Winnipeg is becoming more of a destination, right? There was the recent off-season poll that went out where the Jets moved up a whole bunch of spots in terms of how the organization is run and those type of things. So players are starting to take notice, but with a guy like Kyrou who's only in, I think, year 2 of that contract, maybe year 3. Sorry, he's in year 3 of that contract. With 5 years left to go, he's going to want a lot of say in where that's going to be. So that, that might not be the right kind of fit yet, but somebody like Owen Tippett, I think, is really where my eyes have kind of lingered on.
I want to crux this conversation a little bit with Choices TK saying my faith in acquiring someone at the deadline is gone after last year. And I saw BS 1990 had said that something to keep in mind is with how tight the Eastern Conference is, it's going to likely take a while for the trade market to really materialize. This is all trying to project out.
Yeah.
They're not going to make a big move like that early on. This is going to be the type of stuff that happens after the Olympics.
Yep.
But it is funny. We do have the same ideal target, and that is Owen Tippett with the frustration there. Talk about a guy that brings some size, some speed, some goal scoring, and a little bit of play driving in his game. He's also signed for $6.2 million for the next until 2031-32 season.
Yep.
So you're getting a full 7 years out of the player at age 26 right now. He currently doesn't have no trade protection until 2026, 2027, when a minor no trade kicks in. So one thing we've talked a lot about, where the Winnipeg Jets clearly want to be competitive as long as possible, right? And one thing we've been worried about is that length of time potentially isn't as long out as they're maybe projecting, just because of age curves, money, the lack of a farm system pushing up quality talent. This is the type of age group that they really need to find some long-term help in. And a contract like that at $6.2 million in a rising cap environment is going to have nothing but surplus value. That for me is the ideal guy early on here. Would love Jordan Kyrou. I think he offers a lot of what they lost with Nick Ehlers, and he signed at a similar rate they were offering Ehlers, while Kyrou's the younger player.
Yep.
But the no trade clause is obviously a big concern there. Ethan M, the number is 204-800-0409 if you want to give us a call. But yeah, me and you are definitely on the same page when it comes to Owen Tippett so far with the names that have been mentioned.
And yeah, look, I've got the same type of PTSD off of what happened last year, right? We spent so much time going, man, I can't wait to see what this is going to look like when they add a little bit of help at the deadline, and that help turned into Brandon Tanev. So I understand So I understand the trepidation of you don't want to be Charlie Brown, running up to the football and Lucy pulls it away again. But Caitlin, I think he nailed it on over on YouTube there. The problem last year was that we became obsessed with a number 2 center specifically. They were so zoned in and so focused on Brock Nelson and had no real backup plan to that when it became obvious that Nelson wasn't coming, we had nowhere to pivot to. I'm hoping that the Chevy and the management staff have learned off of that situation. They got a taste of what it's like being at the top for once in that situation, as opposed to the team kind of, being the one to sell off the player. So, I'm hoping that was a learning experience and we're not going to go down that road again. We won't be so hyper-focused on just one player at a really tough position, whereas, a scoring winger, there's always way more of them available than there are centers. So this should hopefully lend itself to be a better deadline for the Jets than what happened last year. Again, I'm not going to put all my eggs in the basket of whoever's coming in is going to be the savior. I think if this team wants to be, the President's Trophy winners and they want to be a contender for the Stanley Cup, a true contender, I think the majority of that has to come from and start with the guys that are in the room right now. And we need to look at whoever comes in at the deadline as just, a little bit of extra help, something to put it over. But we need to see that consistent play first from the guys that are here now.
And I imagine we're going to, as they get healthy.
100%.
Festinator goes Perfetti, Taves, Tippett with the thinking face. And that's where my mind
Woo!
is, Festinator.
Yes.
That
would be nice.
I agree with you on last year. Obviously, last year is just so fresh and it was such a big moment. But the one thing Chevy has done is constantly make a bigger trade to supplement this team. Obviously, missed last year in a big way, and it was a tough spot for a very veteran general manager to get leveraged and so focused on one spot. But historically, he's made some moves when this team feels that they can compete, and they just invested big time money into Kyle Connor. I think that they're going to invest into this team. But Julian does say, hope for the best, plan for the worst. Chevy missed that badly, and last year was a big miss. I was, I had to be on screen with you, Mikey, deteriorating away as we found out about the deadline last year. There's no doubt about that.
Yep, and it's the time where you're looking at it and you're so excited on what could be and what could these possible combinations come to, and it didn't quite work out, but they do try for the most part, right? Like we talk about a few years ago with Monahan. It just, again, wasn't the right fit in the end.
Monahan and Toffoli, yep.
But they tried it out, right? The big trade for Pierre-Luc Dubois didn't quite work out the way they wanted to, and it was kind of forced a little bit in certain things. But again, it was a big swing that they were attempting to fill a hole with. So they will make the moves when they think they've got something there. It just, for me, the issue was more so that they got so hyper-focused on one guy, one situation, and had no backup plan, no way to pivot off of that it took all the air out of our wings for a little bit there. So I'm not putting all my eggs into the trade deadline's going to save everything this year, but I am excited still to see what's going to happen there.
Caitlin says, and this is where my mind goes a bit too, where I am a bit more optimistic still. Caitlin says, Chevy was prepared to sell the farm for Nelson. If we have a chance to get Tippett or Kyrou or Barzell or whoever, he will do everything he can to make it happen. And the fact that they were even in Brock Nelson talks until the end, and UC with Colorado gave up, it tells me that they were close to making their first big deal that involved top prospects from the org. So if they were willing to do that last year, and they just made the big Kyle Connor investment and the Jonathan Toews investment, depending how you see that one, I think they'll be looking to supplement this team for sure.
Yeah, it'll all depend on they're in a good position at the deadline and stuff, that hasn't been a massive collapse, and they're outside of a playoff spot, which kind of goes back to what I was saying, right? Like it needs to still come from this group first. They've got to put themselves in a winning position so that the deadline rolls around and, Chevy can go to Chipman and say, look, we still have a shot at, a deep run. We want to do this. We want to bring in somebody with, some term or some salary. It gives them the chance to do that. So that's, we'll just got to keep pushing along.
B Sarge 8, never tailing Nick on another bet over on Twitch, and my apologies, B Sarge. I had gone into this game. It was only the second game, LA, that Connor and Scheifele had been held off the score sheet, and I decided to double down with Scheifele and Connor 2 points each and a Jets win. This one might be on me.
Yep.
The betting gods did not love that one, and the Jets did not want to reward me watching that game. Sorry, B Sarge.
The FBI is going to be at your door right away with that bet.
If I post a bet, maybe do the opposite of me. That might be the go-to. That might be the way to go here, even though I've had a good start to the year, low-key. Tico Napoli says, how much would a Kyrou cost? Blues have thoughts and rumors of moving him plenty of times. And there was a lot of talk around the draft around him. The thing there is Kyrou controls this entire process with the full no trade.
Yep.
And given that situation, given the long-term deal, given the fact that the Blues are signaling frustration, that's the type of deal I think they're going to lose. I have no idea what they're looking for in regards to
what a return would be.
What they want to do with that org right now.
Yeah, the whole thing is a mess right at the top. So, yeah, who knows what they're going to be wanting for him. He controls really where it's going to be, so it doesn't matter if that team has those assets or not. It's hard to say with that one. It's a real head scratcher.
Chase says, did they ever leak supposedly what Chevy was offering for Nelson? I don't believe I've seen it leaked. My guess at the time was they were really trying to push a first plus Lambert and I guess a third piece. If you look at the idea of what the Islanders ended up getting, it would have then upgraded that trade to even match or even potentially get there. Never mind the no trade clause. Braden Yeager probably had to be involved with given how that trade materialized. So that would be my guess is something around that range, given what Nelson ended up going for. And I still probably would have taken Colorado's package.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. In the end, they got the better package from Colorado, so it's hard to really fault them all that much. Even though, yeah, we were pushing after it, but really with the playoff run that Nelson ended up having, how do you feel about the Jets not ending up on that one?
I still would have, even in hindsight, I still think they needed it. I would have taken a shot. And it's different system, different group. I think I would have rather that than 2 seconds and a fourth for what they got. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no doubt. You ready for
if you take a big shot like that, I have trouble shitting on a GM for taking that shot when
Absolutely.
you have chances to win.
Yep. You ready for a call?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, we've got Ethan KPM. Hey, Ethan, thanks for calling in. You're on the landing strip. What would you like to talk about?
Yeah, let's dive in. Let's dive in on this last game and like what we're doing.
Yep, let's do it.
Let's hit it.
Yeah, finally.
What are you thinking, Ethan? What are you thinking of this last game?
I'd like to talk about, we're trying to dial it in, but we can't compete with these young teams. We can't. Are we the second oldest team in the NHL?
Yes, we are.
We are, yep. We are the second oldest team, Ethan.
I think we lost Ethan.
All right. Maybe they will call back.
Yep, here he
Rain
is.
Rain says potential 0-3 in a California road trip. Has this happened before with the Jets? The nice thing is the Ducks play tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, against Vegas, so they're coming in on a back-to-back. But this California road trip might become quite the doozy over the next couple of years with how Anaheim and San Jose is trending.
Yeah. We've got Ethan again. Hey, Ethan. Thanks for calling back in. So what did you see in the game tonight with the Jets?
King got you hammered. No worries. I'm a Jets fan from Winnipeg. Let him go. Bring you back in. I have to ask this. Is Seth Jarvis going to be on the team?
The Olympic team?
No, I just want to have fun. Have fun.
Oh, I wish. Apparently, he was the one that said that Winnipeg was the place he would love to get traded on in that NHL article. Find me a way to get Seth Jarvis in Winnipeg.
I was the one. I'm a Seth Jarvis hammer fan. I'm a huge Seth Jarvis guy.
Oh, how could you not be with what he's done in the NHL
How
and that
could you
personality?
not be? How could you not be? But I also grew up with him a little bit.
There you go.
My younger brother. So, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. What else is going through your brain other than a couple wobbly pops?
Oh my God, I've been going to like every Montreal game out here. How could I not?
What a fun team that's been to watch, eh?
Yep.
Well, I see everything, and it's fucking amazing. Like the Habs are amazing, but I just have this love for the Jets. I do. I've never missed a Jets game ever in my life in Montreal.
Ethan, you're calling in at 2 a.m. on the East Coast to talk Jets. We have no doubt you love this team, buddy.
I'm coming back.
Excellent.
All right, Ethan, you have yourself a great rest of your night, buddy. Always great to hear from you calling in from the East Coast. And you make sure to cheer hard in that Habs building when the Jets are in town this year.
Yeah, sorry about the teams we're talking about.
You take it easy, bud. BS 1990 on the St. Louis Blues Talk says Blues can't get a save right now, which is very, very much their problem. If one of their goalies gets hot, they'll start rocking up the standings again. Hey, we got to hammer the Blues while we can, though. I can't stand those guys. We got to hammer them while they can.
Yeah, exactly.
Harjivan Parwana says, only saw the third period, but I think this game shows very well that the foot speed is an issue. No Sandberg, I know. but Sharks are a lottery team, so it still shows a significant issue. Very interested to see how it looks when we play Colorado. And I've had a few people reach out saying, if this is what it looked like against St. Louis or San Jose, what is it going to look like against Colorado? And we'll see. We'll see what that looks like. This was also the Jets on not their A game, so I don't want to write off the rest of the years and the matchups, especially when they get healthy. But Colorado is going to be a big test with the pace, especially with how that team started off.
Yeah, and San Jose is 5-1-1 in their last 7. This, they're quote unquote a lottery team, playing pretty well at the moment. So they had a bit of a perfect storm for the Jets to run into tonight. So I'm not overly ready to throw this up as, oh my God, it's the end of the world because they lost to San Jose and then Colorado's going to beat the crap out of them. Colorado still might, but I don't think this is the bellwether for that. And I just took a peruse through the old internet past here. RG Media had the best reporting I could find from Marco D'Amico, who said that they couldn't quite narrow it down, but it was one of Lambert, Barlow, or Yager going back in the deal reportedly. So, you would have lost one of those 3 guys, most likely Yager, depending on what they would have valued a little bit more. But it most likely, would have been Yager and the first going the other way.
Ticona says, hard to have foot speed when the feet are stuck in concrete. And word to that. I got to say, on my way out here, as we're going to move into the 3 stars as we pass the 1 a.m. hour, you know what my big takeaway at the end here is? I'm kind of sick of Will Smith making big plays against my favorite team this last week. I got to say, the name Will Smith is out to hurt me.
I never want to see that again. Yeah, I never want to see the name again. I'm not watching Fresh Prince. I want nothing to do with it after this fucking week.
Yeah, enough Will Smiths. Ugh. Enough. The most generic name out there is just hurting me like crazy.
I'm just tired of my teams losing to California teams right now.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just fucking sick of it this week, man.
This has not been a fun California versus the Jays and the Jets type of week. No. Let's get into the 3 stars. If you're still up in this chat, let us know who your 3 stars were in this game. We'll get into ours, and we'll get on with our weekends here.
Let's hit it. Right on.
As usual, buddy, take the honors. Let's hear your 3 stars.
Right on. So, 3rd star tonight. I went back and forth on who I was going to give it out to. I'm going to give it to Nino Niederreiter, who, in a game of just an absolute mess of line shuffling and poor play and mistakes and things, I actually thought he was quietly okay, especially at the beginning of the game. He's been having a quietly decent season in terms of play. Hasn't maybe always translated to on the score sheet as much as we would like for, again, that middle 6 scoring. But Nino's had a pretty good start to the year, and I think that once things kind of settle into some regular line mates, hopefully we'll see some of that bunch scoring that we've been accustomed to. So I'm going to give Nino my 3rd star and hope that's a beginning of a nice run for him. 2nd star tonight, Connor Hellebuck. The only Jet really with any type of jump, keeping us into this right to the very end with some just absolutely ridiculous saves. So best in the world, Connor Hellebuck, number 2. And I never, ever, ever give out stars to the other team. I hate it. I don't like doing it. I don't want to do it. But fuck off. Macklin Celebrini was so good. So goddamn good. He's fast. He's fast with the puck. Like, it's incredible to watch. 19 years old. He's leading the league. How could he not be the number 1 star after that game?
Yeah. Over on YouTube, Tico Napoli's 3 stars were Celebrini, Helly, and Smith. I think that was it for Turd Ferguson's Jets 3 stars tonight. Oxygen, electrolytes, and no trouble falling asleep after chasing kids around the ice all night. My 3 stars in this one, I'm gonna go Ned, number 3. Made some big saves, especially in that first and the last couple minutes there with the net empty to keep this a 2-1 victory for the San Jose Sharks. I'm gonna go Hellebuck, number 2 on this night. Without him, this could have been a 4-5-1 shellacking that we might have really gone full meltdown mode here tonight. And number 1, Macklin Celebrini, the best player on the ice. Quickly, though, because BS 1990, and I've been itching to talk a little Jays offseason, actually, says Bieber fever continues this year. Now just got to open up the wallet for Bichette. I got to say, that Shane Bieber opting in at $16 million when he had a $4 million buyout already factored into his decision is one of the more interesting opt-in versus opt-out situations I've seen for a free agent. I don't buy that he would have gotten offered the 5-130 I saw that was going around online that people were talking about. But an arm like him easily could have got probably 3 years, maybe 4, bidding war.
Yep.
Around 60 to 70 mil, and he opts in to stick with the Jays, stay competitive next year at an undervalued deal. And I imagine they're going to open up their wallets in a big way. Rogers definitely printed cash. They were a top 5 payroll this year. They had the one nice thing about them, everyone talks about the fact they don't have a TV deal. They own their TV network, and you don't think that they're going to get additional ad revenue with the numbers they saw and the interest that was developed. I think they ultimately get Bo done. If not, it would not surprise me if they shifted to Kyle Tucker, which is not a bad scenario
Not a
either.
bad way, yep.
As much as the Bo thing has the heartstrings attached, we're seeing some Kyle Tucker smoke early. And then I'd like them to see them get another top-end starting pitcher. They got great depth in the system. They got great depth when it comes to hitters, though they could add probably a bench bat with some power to kind of bring off the bench. Go get me a starting pitcher like Peralta out of Milwaukee. Scooball doesn't sound like that's going to happen.
Yep.
Dylan Cease. Get another arm to add to Gosman, Bieber, and Savage, and let's go to town. Let's go get over this hump. And the other interesting part, because Jeff Hoffman was a shift in philosophy for the Jays last offseason. The one thing that this front office has done typically with the bullpen is find cheap arms and look to really develop and get more talent out of them, which when you look at the philosophy of baseball tends to be a smart strategy because of the up and down nature of relievers, kind of like goalies in the NHL, if you want a comparison. Though Jeff Hoffman was the first time they ventured away with that, spending money on a quote-unquote closer. And Ross Atkins was not committed to Jeff Hoffman as the closer next year.
Yep.
Did they go spending on a guy like Diaz or the lefty closer out of San Diego?
I think they're going to
really
be
interesting times.
I think they're going to be trying hard at it right now for that exact reason.
Yeah, and talking some Jays, BS 1990 says the vibes in the clubhouse are so high. All the posts on social media from the players and WAG show their team as something special happening.
Yep.
I've never seen such an outpouring of love for a clubhouse as we've seen from some of the WAG's posts and what it's meant.
Did you see the one from Scherzer's wife saying it's the best spot they've been in his entire career? Most
fun he's had in his entire Hall of Fame career.
Yep. She's never seen guys not want to go home at the end of the season. Like it's something special they're brewing right now.
Yeah, and I think the interesting one is I think Scherzer's probably gone.
Yeah.
I think the interesting one is really Chris Bassett, who really was a big piece of that locker room.
Yep.
And he showed he could be still at his age, be a bit of a weapon out of the pen. So I do wonder if he comes back as a 5-6 starter and then after the deadline becomes a reliever for them. It's a really, really interesting winter coming up for the Jays.
Yeah, the way he was just so, whatever you need me to do, whatever you want me to come in and pitch, 1 inning here, 2, and whatever you need, I'm going to come in and do it during this playoff run. I think, it was a big sign that he may want to, he may understand that it's time for that kind of transition. And if they can find a cheap deal to make that work, I'm all over it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Harjivan Parana says, pretty impressed to see the spending power. Nice to see as a Canadian. Outside looking in, you wouldn't think they could swing with the Dodgers. Don't know much about the sport. So one thing that's really changed, and despite the results until this year with the front office, and this front office in Toronto was on the hot seat this year, Mark Shapiro has the trust from Ed Rogers that we've never seen before when it comes to Rogers owning this team. The Jays historically were spending like 160, 170 million, which isn't bad, especially at the time they were doing it, but they were never at this level. Ed Rogers has opened up the piggy bank for this management group, and I'm excited to see what they do with it coming off the run they just gave us.
Well, yeah, they had the amount of notoriety that they gained during this run. You had people who had never watched a baseball game in their life turning in for multiple playoff games, buying Jays merch. It was such a transformational run that they've picked up so many new fans and things that this is the time you want to keep your name in the news. You want to keep those vibes going. The way that you can do that, once the season is over, is let's start adding some talent. Let's re-sign our guys. Let's make this a big deal. And like you said, he's got the faith finally to open up those purse strings a little bit, it seems like.
Yeah, a lot of love from Turd Ferguson saying bring back Seabass. He'll take a good deal in his opinion. And BS 1990 talking about Seabass turning into an ace closer other than Game 7 was wild. I know for me, my biggest takeaway, I'm still feeling it. I've never been that sad, honestly, as a sports fan, as that day after Game 7. It really hit. But I guess as we've gotten further away and the offseason's starting to come and this team's in a great position to really build off this, my biggest takeaway this year, me and you have talked baseball for years. We even did a top line Jays for one couple months there
Yep.
when we were kind of getting off the ground.
May need to bring it back.
As someone that grew up in a family that really bonded over baseball, every time I went for a summer hockey trip to Minneapolis, me and my dad would try and get to a Twins game at the old Dome. To see this country and people that aren't normally into the sport get really fixated on it, the amount of buddies that I've never talked baseball before that were texting me trying to learn things. Why did this happen? Why did they make this change? What happened here was just awesome to be a part of. I was having group chats with guys I knew were baseball guys, and then guys that have never watched it wanting to meet up at the bar and watch the game together. It was just really great to see for the sport of baseball. Game 7 got over 50 million people tuned in the U.S., in Canada, and Japan combined. And about 45% of Canada tuned in at one point or the other for Game 7. Just great to see for a sport that I love dearly. For me, it's hockey and baseball. And I hope they really build off of this because there is an opening to really bring on more people to such a beautiful sport. I'm a sucker for baseball. It's a beautiful mess at times, and it really hurt me this year. I've heard fond memories of the 92-93 runs, and I truly believe for probably the second time in my life the Jays had a chance to win the World Series, and they were 25 out of 27 outs there.
2 outs.
And that kills me.
2 outs.
It kills me.
That's painful. I've watched my teams lose in World Cup finals. I've watched my teams lose in Stanley Cup finals. I've watched my teams lose a lot over the years, and this was one of the ones that hurt the very most. It's been so long since we've been at the dance.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Never in my life.
I was 4 last time, so I didn't watch it the last time. I was too young. I was to remember it. So it's been so long since they've been there. It's so hard to get there. Baseball's the hardest sport to get to that that championship series, and for them to have so many records, so many postseason records, they were just. Everything was going their way, and all you needed was 2 more outs, and it couldn't come. And I'm still not okay. I'm gonna be honest. I'm still not okay with it. It still hurts. I'm gonna need those good vibes from a big signing or something to help bring me around. Because right now I'm still crying.
Julian says, and who knows, maybe the Jays can be the AL's version of the Dodgers and be in it every year.
Hey,
I wouldn't bet against them. They're a very, very, very well-run organization,
Yep.
and they have the spending power and the notoriety now. It wouldn't shock me if they build off of this. Turd Ferguson said, 92-93 was incredible. 2025 was even bigger. Let's do it more often.
hell yeah.
Julian says, as an American, I wanted the Jays to win so badly. I actually cried and went to sleep for 12 hours.
Yep.
And they say that you're not supposed to cry in baseball. And I'm not ashamed to say there was a lot of tears
Yeah.
that night
Ditto.
and the next day for me. That was a tough one.
Yeah. My mom called me the next morning. She's like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "I needed to check on you. I know how tough that must have been." I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm not okay, Mom. I'm not okay."
I couldn't even answer my mom's call, and it was cool because my mom grew up like really big into baseball, and she was like texting me and my brothers during every game down the stretch to see that bring her back out of it was really cool.
Mine couldn't care less about baseball normally. That is not a sport that interests my mom normally, but she watched the entire World Series run. She was calling me to check in on it. Like it just, it brought people out, man. It was incredible.
And yeah, we'll touch on BS 1990's points here. Have so many fun memories from when I was younger playing ball tournaments in the summer. Nothing like a sunset over a ball diamond on a warm Winnipeg evening. And says there's a reason it's such an international sport. It's the ultimate thinking man's sport. And for me, I was always a fan of baseball, but I was so obsessed with this idea that I could make it somewhere in hockey. And I was doing hockey year round. And I finally gave up on that idea and started playing baseball when I was 15, 16, or 16, 17. And it's a sport I always wished I would have started at a younger age. Now I'm playing in the beer leagues of slow pitch, and that's the highlight of summer. But on the topic of it being such an international sport, and it's the ultimate thinking man's sport, that's what I love about baseball. Like what we just witnessed, you can't replicate what playoff baseball is. I had a soccer fan reach out who's never given baseball a look, who was reaching out and saying like the anticipation and how much it builds with each batter, like every batter matters, and it could release that excitement with a home run and stuff like that. He had compared it to soccer, with soccer being so low scoring that there's that jubilation when a goal goes in. And with baseball, it is just so hard. Like I think hockey playoffs are electric. I enjoy the basketball finals. I enjoy the Super Bowl for the most part. Sometimes I've really fallen off of football. But you cannot replicate the intensity of baseball in October with every batter, every pitch being able to turn around a game completely. Like even Game 7, as painful as it is, the Jays were up to a 92% winning opportunity, and that game pivots on a dime like that, and it sucks. But that's baseball. And when it comes to like the thinking man's game, what I love about it is you're watching managers play chess with the highest level of athletes trying to do some of the hardest physical things to do, and every decision can be scrutinized. Every play can be scrutinized. And you could have Vlad Guerrero put up a Barry Bonds level postseason. You could have Kevin Gausman pitch his nuts off and not get a win. You could have Savage do something historic. You could have Ernie Clement put up records, and you still don't win.
Yep. That's the thing with baseball. There's no wasted play. There's no throwaway play. There's no, he threw the ball, out the sidelines, like in football to stop the clock. Like, there's no wasted play. Everything is so crucial. And it's that jubilation. It's that release of all of that pent up energy when something big goes off. It's incredible.
As BS 1990 points, and I think this is the best way to say it, the cat and mouse game between the batter and the pitcher, there's just nothing like it. And there isn't. And it's one of those games, the more you get into it and the more you understand and you're able to really pick out the details, the better it gets. The more you learn about baseball, the better it gets. We'll leave with this. Dan Moore, I want to get your thoughts on this and where you're at on this, because this is the big topic around the MLB. It's going to be the big topic probably for the next year and a half with where things are trending. Dan Moore says, so I'm a Dodgers fan and have been my whole life. The best thing that could possibly come out of the current Dodgers team is a hard cap and a salary floor in the MLB. Your thoughts on that, Mikey?
Won't ever happen. The way that the system is set up, one, you've got the strongest union in all of professional sports in North America.
It's impressive.
It's
impressive.
The way, and that's the way that it fucking should be. It's just never going to happen. You're not going to get them to agree to a hard cap like that and start reducing the amount that for the games that they could do on each season. So it'll never come. It'll never happen in baseball. I think that's a hill I'm happy to die on. I don't think we'll ever see it. So yeah, I just don't. I can't see it ever happening.
You can't see it, but would you want it?
No, I don't think I do. To be honest, I don't. I don't think that's the right way to take baseball.
Yeah, so I'm gonna I'm not ready to do this, but I'm going to defend the Dodgers a little bit here. I'm not a big salary cap guy in baseball either.
Yep.
Though I realize, and like, I don't like the narrative that's out there about the Dodgers are killing the sport of baseball. They spent, what was it, like 380 on the roster and then had to spend 170 mil in luxury tax.
Yep.
Because the MLB does have a quote unquote salary cap, or there's a lot of punishment that goes into being over the luxury cap each year you're over, and the Dodgers were at, I think, the second or third year now being over that third level. I just have trouble looking at the Dodgers, who I think is the best run organization in sports. They took Andrew Friedman out of Tampa, who was able to compete consistently with Tampa's payroll, and then they gave him a blank check, and look what he's been able to do. Not only just signing the biggest players and building an environment players want to be, but the development system the Dodgers run and whatnot. And I think what would happen with a cap ceiling is it might even benefit the higher teams more, because it's going to drive up the cost on free agents, the best ones anyways, getting those teams more involved. But it's also like the teams like the Dodgers, who are spending so big, are just going to reinvest that money like they've already done elsewhere to still gain the edge. I think the problem in baseball is the lowest 5 to 8 teams who, before the season, like, how are you not spending $100 million on a roster when you're getting $110 million before a fan even comes into your building?
Yep.
On the TV contracts and the money going around? I think the lower end teams and how much they don't invest in their players is a bigger problem than the Dodgers. And I don't want to punish the Dodgers for being so much further ahead of everyone. And the other side of it too is maybe a bit selfish, but the Jays are finally spending like a big league team.
Yep.
I don't want them to get cut off.
No.
But it's one of those sports where there's so many teams, like everybody in baseball is making money. Everybody in that sport's making money, whether you're the Dodgers or you're the Marlins. And there's owners in this sport like Pittsburgh, like the Marlins, who don't reinvest into their programs at all, and they're happy cashing checks and making franchise values. I don't want to reward those teams because of the embarrassment that they've had. You know what's a wild fact that I found out this week? When the Jays won in '93, this was the same conversation going on, because the Jays won with the highest payroll in baseball, and it was $41 million that year.
Yeah.
You know how much the Marlins spent on a roster this year?
How much?
68, I think it was.
Oh.
30 years later.
Oh.
Never mind inflation.
I was
and
going to say,
everything.
you adjust that for inflation, that's brutal. It's like a $20 million roster.
And like, obviously the Dodgers have gotten such a big boost from what's going on with bringing over Ohtani, which then got them Yamamoto and Sasaki. But what a lot of people don't realize, like, the Dodgers started getting their brand out in Japan for years ago. Like,
Yep.
just after the Second World War, they started sending the Dodgers teams out to play a lot of the Japanese teams and build that identity. And Asian players are going to prefer the West Coast from a time difference as far as what's going on back home.
Yep.
I hate the narrative that the Dodgers are ruining baseball when, like, who pointed it out here? Julian points out, too many cheap owners. Look at the Detroit Tigers. They're willing to let their best pitcher go, and they did it to Scherzer back in the
Yeah, they
day
did to
rather
Max.
than pay him. Other teams can buy players too. The Pirates, as BS points out, it's not the Dodgers, it's the fucking Pirates that are a problem.
Yep.
The Pirates are one of the most embarrassing franchises in all of North American sports. Like, if the Browns didn't exist, Pittsburgh's got to be in that conversation. Another one's the Colorado Rockies.
Yep.
They have to be the most disorganized franchise that does whacked shit all the time that makes no common sense. This is probably their best hire as a GM ever, and it's a guy that hasn't even worked in the sport in 10 years because he's been working with the Browns.
Yeah.
So I don't like the narrative and how it's become such a public thing that the teams that are willing to invest in the sport, invest in players, are the problem, when there is a good handful, if not more, of teams. Look at the Milwaukee Brewers every year. Look at the Cleveland Guardians every year. Even when they're in it, they're selling off for profit.
Yep.
I don't want to reward those teams in this setup. So it's going to be interesting. We're heading towards a lockout.
Yeah, the owners are going to
100%
push
over
for it
this
again.
issue.
Yeah. We're going to push
You
for
had
it again.
Bryce Harper. You had Bryce Harper threaten the commissioner in the dressing room this year.
Yep.
I get the desire for equality. I don't know if it necessarily plays out like that in the big picture. I think it's I think there's other ways that you can make a financial system work than capping. Like a team like the Dodgers, just in TV revenue alone, I'm pretty sure it's like $330 million. And you're going to say that they can't reinvest that into the team? I just don't like that. No,
and it's not like the Dodgers are breaking the rules, right? It's not the NHL. It's not a hard cap. It's not, it's the luxury tax is there for this reason. Yeah, spend over, the threshold that's set there, pay your tax. But if you can get the guys to come sign for you, you can get the guys to come sign for you. It's working within the system that is there. It's not like some big, oh my God, I can't believe they're cheating and this and that. It's a very different system than like the NHL where you can't go over the cap, right? So, yeah, like you said, there's no point in penalizing, the teams that are able to actually get out there, market themselves, get these big contracts, and then the other teams who are just cashing their fucking checks, taking in, the revenue sharing and doing absolutely nothing for their team, nothing for their ballpark. It's brutal. So, yeah, they're going to have to figure something out on the bottom end of it, but even though they just they beat us, I don't fault the Dodgers or look at it as, oh, the Dodgers are cheating or, oh, the Dodgers are doing something untoward. It just, that's the way that the salary works in Major League Baseball.
Hey, you want to remind me how the Los Angeles Dodgers got Mookie Betts?
No.
The Boston Red Sox, of all teams in the MLB, decided that they weren't going to pay Mookie Betts, and I'm supposed to be mad at the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Boston Red Sox, rather than paying that man, decided to make that trade.
Yeah.
But, hey, we've been talking all night. Thank you all for tuning. Actually, before we go, BS 1990, this is the shit I'm talking about. The Angels don't even have air conditioning in their gym, and I'm supposed to be mad at the Dodgers.
Right? Like, come on. What the fuck are we doing with that?
Yeah. Great show. Went on talking ball a little longer than we expected, but thank you for being here at the now 1:30 a.m. local hour. Great to chat some puck, get some thoughts out of our way. Great to talk some baseball. I always love talking baseball. We might have to make baseball combos a regular thing.
We're going to have to bring that back, yep.
Might have to dive in. I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll be back, Sunday? I believe it's Sunday?
Yep, Sunday.
Sunday versus the Ducks. We'll see you then.
Right on. Good night, everybody.